Alright, today I'm going to talk to you about principle number 4. And also, I'm going to explain to you a character trait that I've seen in all of the top performers, like all people that I've seen have achieved so much success in their lives. And also, I'll introduce you to another mindset, which is counterintuitive for a lot of people, but it is unfortunately the hard truth that all of them need to accept, including me and also you. If you want to achieve this level of success, then this is what it takes. Let's start with principle 4, humility. What is humility? Humility is essentially when you have a student mindset. That's the good version of humility. Like, if you search up the definition of humility online, it comes up with lowering your self-image basically, but that's not what humility is. Like, that's like a that's the wrong definition of humility in this case. If you want to succeed, humility actually means having a student mindset, having the ability to recognize your flaws, not being blinded by your successes and your progress. Because you will get to a point where you make a lot of progress, but then you will be blinded by the progress. You'll start to think that you're above the very habits that built you in the first place, and that's where humility comes in, because you can notice your flaws and you can act to fix your flaws every day without without having it without having your progress blind you basically. So that's why you need humility. But then, what's the character trait that helped every one of the top performers though? Arrogance. You may be asking, then you're telling me to be humble, but then you're telling me to be arrogant. Which one is it? Because they're meant to be counterintuitive, aren't they? They're meant to be contradictory. Wrong. There is a big difference between arrogance and something that I call ego. Arrogance is very good for success because it gives you this energy, this drive to push forward in your goals and achieve them faster. It gives you this sense of it's almost like a self-image thing. It helps you become who you want to become faster. But ego, on the other hand, is just too much arrogance, because too much arrogance will lead to your downfall. For example, the thing between Conor McGregor and Khabib. You can see Conor used to be humble and used to be arrogant at the same time. That's why he grew to such a large level. But then he started to become egotistical. He started to become complacent, because when he becomes egotistical, that leads to complacency, and complacency leads to lack of progress. So you need to understand the difference between arrogance and ego. And also, you should be able to conduct arrogance in yourself and also be humble at the same time. Humble in the sense you can notice your flaws, where you need to get better, and you don't get complacent and you don't ditch the habits that built you in the first place. For example, if you start implementing the other three principles that I taught you and the habits that came with it, the cold shower, the meditation, the journaling, you will inevitably improve, right? But then you will improve to a standard where there'll be days that you don't want to do them anymore. You'll be you're almost above the need for meditation. You're almost above the need for journaling. But every time I notice myself, every time I drift into that type of mindset where I say, I don't need meditation anymore. I don't need journaling anymore. I've got the benefits. I don't need it anymore. But then I just sink back to where I was before. where I was. The unambitious, just lack of progress, basically. That's where I was, complacent. And that's where you will snap back to when you are not humble. That's why you need to be humble. So, step by step guide. How do you actually understand these things and how do you implement them? So, here's the step by step guide on how you can conduct arrogance but also be humble at the same time. And also, ego is the enemy. Have you heard of that book, Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday? He was correct, but most people refer ego to arrogance. They're not the same thing, as I've told you now. All right? You need to be arrogant. Every top performer is arrogant. Every top performer. Conor was arrogant before he fell off. Khabib is arrogant, but he pretends to be humble on the outside, which he is. He is humble, but he's arrogant in the inside. Inside his mind, he's thinking, yeah, I'm a winner. I'm a winner. That's his mindset inside. But overtly, he's just humble. Right? So you need to acknowledge the fact that arrogance is very, very important, and ego is, get rid of ego, because ego will all it will do for you is just ruin your progress and put you into complacency, because you think you're better than what you were. You think you're better than the things that built you. So how do you use it? Journaling will help you, right? Once a week, pick up your journal as normal, as I told you. You should already have a consistent journaling practice now. But pick up a journal and write down your flaws. Write down what you need to improve on. Don't make it seem like they are like very big flaws, right? Because then that will mess up your self-image, which you don't want, because I'll go into that in another video. Your self-image is very important, but you don't want to mess up your self-image. You don't want to go into this mindset of like pessimism and you think that you're worthless. That's not the idea. The idea is, on your path to growth, you need to recognize what areas are you weak at and what areas can you improve on. And arrogance is just like noticing what you're good at. It's like humility notices what you're weak at, arrogance notices what you're good at, and it enhances what you're good at. And humility improves what you're good at until they become strengths. So don't be egotistical. Yeah, you can say stuff like you are better than everyone else if objectively, in fact, that is true. But then don't go to the point where it's just too much. Humility should only be for your growth and noticing your weaknesses, where you are weak in, right? If you've been meditating consistently but you've not been going to the gym, humility you can use to go to the gym. If you've been going to the gym consistently and you've not been journaling, then humility can be used to journal. So you need to be humble, but you also need to be arrogant. But you should never, ever, I repeat, never, ever be egotistical. There's a big difference. There's a thin line, right? Egotistical is where you're just overly arrogant without any work to prove it. That's what ego is. If you say stuff like, yeah, I'm better than everyone else, but you have no work ethic to prove it, you have literally no progress to prove it. Like, if you just go around saying, in your mind, of course, you're better than everyone else, but you haven't done the self-mastery habits, then how are you better than everyone else? Tell me. So you only have that self-image boost through arrogance when you've done the work. If you just go around and say that you're better than everyone else, use ego without any results to prove it, then you're just robbing yourself of progress. So be arrogant, but be humble, but never be egotistical. That's the message I want to give you today. And journal to find your weaknesses. And if you want to be more arrogant, I'll make a video on how to be more arrogant, how to delude yourself into thinking that you are what you are going to become in the future. You are that guy. You are him. I'll see you in the next one.